friends, it's Stacy here with Stacy Makes. Welcome back to this channel where we talk about crochet stuff, yarn, markets, new patterns, things like that. So if you love that kind of thing, thank you for being here. And if you are not new and you are returning, thank you for coming back again. I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming. So today's video is going to be about what I made leading up to this market that I had yesterday, and then the market itself, what I sold, what didn't sell, how much money I made, some just thoughts, general thoughts on the market itself, and then some new things that I have coming up. So first off, we'll talk about what I made this week leading up to the market, and then we'll market recap everything, go over all of that, and then we'll talk about some of the stuff I have coming up for the rest of December for you guys. So right now, this week leading up to the market was a slower week. I typically have learned over the years that it does me no good to stress the very last week before a market and try to go and stay up late and get one more piece of this out, one more piece of that out, just to make another piece of inventory that may or may not sell. I just try to plan the best that I can, work as hard as I can leading up to that. And then the week before, I spend sometimes just doing things that I want to do and pricing everything, making sure I have everything packed, kind of going over what I do have, maybe if there are any gaps, working on the few things maybe that I have a gap for, and then just, you know, trying to enjoy that week leading up to it. I get a little, no matter how many times I do a market, no matter how many times I've been to that school anymore, I get a little bit anxious about whether or not I'm going to run into traffic, or if I'll be late, or if it'll be worth it, or what if I wake up and I don't feel good, and it's just this whole overthinking thing. So I do my best to do what I can for myself through that week, and the nights leading up to it, to just relax and spend some downtime, just decompressing and remembering why I do what I do, instead of overworking myself and getting burnt out. So that's just my own personal preference. Obviously, you've got to do what works for you, and that has just seemed to help me anyway get through my market weeks and enjoy them a little bit more the week before the market. So this week I did not crochet as much. I had gotten done so much on my focus list. I was super proud of myself, and as a reward, I was just taking it easy and working on a couple new patterns that I had bought on Black Friday, and then working through a few last minute quick makes, and then I'm also working on a new pattern. So, you know, nothing like market season to try to do a little pattern designing, but this is my last market, or was my last market, and I am ready to move forward for the rest, you know, of what I have coming up, and see where, you know, the rest of that takes us. So let's go through what I made. Of course, most of what I made, I don't have it on me. It got packed up this week. It got taken to the show, and a lot of it was sold. So, and I didn't go back through my market bags last night or this morning and try to grab the stuff that I made this last week that didn't sell so you guys could see it. Apologies for that. I did make I made two brand new patterns this week, besides the one I'm working on for myself. And that was a Triceratops pattern. That is a four-legged body with the head sewn on attached. Crochet by Kelsey, I believe, is the designer for that. And I did take a picture of it. I'll pop it up here. And it was burlap blanket yarn, dark teal, and then the frosting color for the edges that had the blues in it. And it took me a whole evening to make this Triceratops because, again, I was not rushing. I was relaxing. I was watching TV. And it was a new pattern for me. So it did take me probably over 2.5 hours, maybe a little less than 3 though, to make this pattern. I'm not going to use that time as a basis for the pricing, just because I I feel like if I made it again, I could do it much faster. It's just, it was the first time for it. There was some unique little things that she does in the pattern that I hadn't ever done before. And so just concentration, watching a movie, you know, the combination of those things and being distracted. So the Triceratops turned out super cute. I love the design. It had a really unique way to do the tail. Again, I'll pop up the picture that I'm sure you've seen it by now. I priced it at $35 and it did sell yesterday, so I don't have it to show you at all. The second new pattern that I tried this week that I had bought over the Black Friday deal was this mallard pattern. I think it was Cozy Little Mallard or Cozy Little Goose. It came with separate instructions for the mallard colors and the goose colors, which a lot of times the pattern will just say, if you're doing it this way, change to whatever. But this had two completely separate patterns, which was kind of nice, just so that you didn't have to kind of weed through and miss a color change if you were doing the other mod for it. But Crochet by Avery was the pattern designer for this, and I will pop it up as well so you can see it, because it sold as well yesterday, and I really enjoyed this pattern. You make the feet and you make the wings, and then everything, it's crocheted, it's all in one piece. It lays kind of flat and its wings, you know, kind of flap out. It's a really unique design, and it sold yesterday as well. Anyway, the Sleepy Mallard did sell, and I'll make that again. I'll make it in the goose combination and probably in the mallard combination as well in the future. I did make a Nooks Hooks elephant. I was watching Robin from Knotting Hook Crochet. Her Vlogmas was this last week, which I've really been enjoying. And she was making Nooks_hooks free elephant Instagram pattern. And she mentioned that she thought it was the one that I made. And I actually had yarn with me at work, and I watched her video over my lunch break, and I made the elephant along with her this week. And in the Burnett variety, I priced them at $12. And it actually sold yesterday too. I made 2 jumping spiders. I think I only had 1 left from the last market, and I made 1, or I think I ended up with 4 total. But I made 2 this week, 1 in a blue and 1 in a blue, green, yellow variegated yarn. I made 2 mini octos out of those same yarns over my lunch breaks this week. I made a small $8 whale. The spiders did sell, by the way. The mini octos did not, and the whale did not. And I made an Odo the octopus out of the teal yarn as well, and it did not sell either. I think I came home with that. The only other 2 things I made this week, I'll show you later when I talk about the new pattern, because they were my new pattern and I did not take them to my market. But I did make $151 in inventory this week, counting those 2 things that I didn't take to the market. Before that, I only made $115. Like I said, I was pricing, I was taking it easy. I had some things going on this week with the kids. I was spending time with them too, and I had some stuff at work going on that was just like stressing me out and making me work a little bit more than I normally do. So anyway, so that is what I made before the market. I priced everything, I think it was Sunday night last week after I videoed. I priced everything that I had so that I could start the week with only having to price anything new that I had made. And that way that was off my plate and done, which I really highly suggest not waiting, making months and months and months worth of stuff and waiting to sit down and do it all. But also when I do make a list of stuff that I made that week, I write down what I want to price it at based on the time and the material it took me. And if you do wait a month or 2 or 3 months out, you'll forget how long it took you, I'm sure, to do some of the patterns and, you know, the time that was involved and what price you were thinking. And so that's really been helpful to me too, to go back to that list and be like, okay, I was going to do $24 on this. And so I don't have to sit there and actually think about the pricing for the items, because I already did that when I made it. And I sat down and did my weekly inventory review. I wrote it down and I put there what I wanted out of it when it was fresh in my mind. So that's really helped too. The pricing goes so much faster because I don't have to think through that, which some of you guys probably makes a lot of the same things over and over again, so you also don't have to think through it. And some of you probably don't price each individual plushie. And I don't price each one. If it goes in the $5, $8, or $10 bin, I don't put a price tag on it. And so some of the 12s and 15s I don't either, 12s for sure. But some of the 12s, 15s, and a few of the 10s sometimes I'll go ahead and put a tag on if I think I want to put them on a corner or up outside of the bin that has the price tag on it. But maybe only about 10% of that stuff actually gets a price. Okay, so let's move on to the market. This market was at a high school. It is a market that I did last year in my crochet as a crocheter. Previously, before that, I had done this market from 2006 to 2000 and probably 16 or 17. At least 10 years I had been to this market every single year when I used to sew baby burp cloths, and I used to make baby bibs and blankets and all kinds of little kid things. And it was always my best show. It's always the first weekend in December. It is a juried show, so they only let so many in of so many things, and they do like look at the pictures of your things and decide who gets in and who does not. And they only let so many of each thing in as well. You do have to pay to get into this event, and all of it is a fundraiser for the band at this particular school. And it's just very well supported by the community and very well attended. I mean, there are people waiting outside behind all of the double doors, just waiting lined up to get into the doors and to pay so that they can go. And when you come in the front doors, there is a big, large hallway. There are hallways off to the side, and some of them wrap around and have people down the hallway and then wrapped around and back into the main. And then there is the cafeteria, which I was in the cafeteria. So if you don't watch my channel all the time, I do these markets with my daughter, Tara. She has her own YouTube channel and Etsy and Instagram called Old Soul Factory. And so me and Tara do the markets together. We sign up for them together. They know that we're together, but we both make crochet related things. Let me go ahead and show you my market footage, and then I will give you some thoughts on what I feel like changed this year. And then I'll obviously go over what I made. I don't have a ton of footage from the market. It was very, very busy up until about 1 to 1:30. It's 9 to 3. So we were selling stuff before we were done setting up. We had band kids in our booth the whole time. We were in and out of watching us. I mean, you may see that a little bit on our setup video. I did get footage of us setting up. And in that setup footage, you might see some of the band kids like coming around. I'm not sure if you'll see them as much because I did turn the footage off when we were maybe 2/3 of the way set up. And the more and more we got set up and the kids were done loading everybody in, the more and more kids there were in and out of that booth. And again, we were selling things before the market even started. So it was a fun day in that regards. And the band kids just love our stuff and they remembered us from last year. So that was fun. So I have some setup footage, and then I have, and I think the only other footage I have is one taken about half an hour before the market was over that shows the tables. So not a ton of footage this time around, but I do have some setup and then a video before we tear down, and I don't have any tear down footage. So I'll insert those clips right now, and we'll be back with you guys in just a second. Hey y'all, it's Stacy. It's market day. I am at Tara's waiting for her to come out and load up. Looks like she just turned the lights off, so she'll be out here soon. It is 6:26 in the morning. We are headed on our way. I did not leave us a ton of extra time this morning. We shouldn't have to rush, but we also don't really have a lot of extra time in there for anything to happen. So but anyway, I'm packed up, ready. We should get there about 7:45 and then have an hour, 15 minutes before the show starts, which hopefully will be plenty of time. And when it starts at 9, it starts at 9. There's people lined up at the door, and
they are unleashing them at 9 o'clock to just go each and every way. It takes a little bit for everyone to kind of funnel into the cafeteria because it's kind of the back biggest room. But anyway, so it's market day. I never, which I think I've told you guys this before, I never sleep super well the night before a market, but I also don't stay up super late and try to prep. So I did go to bed at a decent time last night, and I did get probably about 6.5 hours of sleep before my body woke up and was like, will my alarm go off? Will I do this? Will I be able to do that? And that's just the things that my body does. When it has something important it has to get up for and doesn't want to be late for, and a little bit of that anxiousness kind of sets in. No matter how many times I do this, I do a market, any market, doesn't matter what market, unless it's in later in the day. If it's a 10 to 2 and it's like a half hour from my house, my body doesn't really necessarily do that. So, but anyway, so we're packed up and ready. I'm packed up and ready, waiting on Tara. I think that's all I have for now. So we'll have a very small space, so we'll see how we manage getting it all in there, and we'll talk to you in a little bit.
What? I'm not going to the yarn store now. She's sick.
Okay, so that was our setup and our teardown. As you can see, our booth is kind of in a unique space. It is an 8x10, so it is smaller than our normal space. Usually we have at least a 10x10. The last market we had we were supposed to have a 10x12. And we did get to kind of go out in the aisle a little bit, so it did kind of make it a little bit more like a 10x11. And so an 8x10 really poses a different setup. And we had this exact same spot last year too, which we weren't doing YouTube at the time, so you guys didn't get to see that. I didn't start YouTube until January, after all of my fall markets were over. So we had an 8x10 space, but there was aisles on both sides. Because of the way it's set up, we just happened to be in this skinny area between a place where there were back-to-back booths. So it was kind of a weird, people either walked down one side and they walked down both, because they wanted to see everything that was on this side. And then they would come around and they would walk by the other side of your booth to see the stuff on that side. So somewhere in looking on both of those sides, they would catch one side of your booth or the other. So you felt like you had to set it up or people could see and go in and both ways. So we can't really set up in a U shape. Can't really set up in a Z shape. We had to just set up on the sides. So we set up, I don't even know what you would call that shape. We set up on the sides and allowed traffic to just flow through the middle to go to each side of the aisle. And that worked out really, really well last year too. And then better than last year was we were a booth next to us, and then there was 2 more spots, and then there was a guy on the end. The 2 spots that were down there, a booth over from us, the people, one of them set up in the wrong area. They called her, nobody showed up there. So we were like, can we move down to fill up the space, because we're all kind of tight anyway. And so they call those people and make sure that they're not coming before that they, have us fill up the space. They called one of them and she's like, no, I'm here, I'm setting up. And then they go check on her and come to find out she's in the wrong spot. I have no idea where she was, but she was in the wrong spot. And there was no way she was going to be able to take everything down and move herself to the correct spot. And then the other one they called, did not get a hold of her. She did not show. So 10 minutes before the show started, the guy on the very end that was by himself, he's moving his tables out instead of, he had them kind of in a U shape. He's moving them more flat to fill up the space kind of next to him. And then there's a whole other space. And so the table next to us, they moved down about 4 feet into that space. There was still 5 to 6 feet of space we could have moved into, and I would have liked if the table next to us would have moved even farther down, but they didn't, which is fine. She was all set up and it was just about time to start, and it was just kind of like, didn't want to collapse tables and have stuff move. And so she got about 4 or 5 feet down maybe, and so we got a chance to kind of move down about 3 feet and left more of a space between our booths. So we probably ended up with more like a 10 by 11 or 12 at the end of the day, but it was still a double-sided. So we left our table, we put our bookshelves and our ladder shelves on one side with cheesecloth behind the big bookshelves. And then we put our table in an L, 1 4-foot table facing out to one aisle, one in front of us, and then I had a half of one of the bookshelves over here on the left as kind of the corner, and we sat behind the tables. It was super, super tight before we got the chance to move down. But the setup worked out really well. The extra half of a bookshelf I added at the last minute that morning. I was like, what if by some chance somebody doesn't show up and we end up with more space? I'm going to wish I had an extra table or a bookshelf or something. And I'm like, worst case scenario, I knew I could put it on that end facing the aisle. It would block us in more as far as where we were sitting. But I'm like, worst case scenario, I could put it there, or we could turn it around and use it as our checkout area if we needed to. So I went ahead and brought that one, and I'm really glad we did. So that just kind of closed off that end where it didn't feel like it was so, there was more product facing the aisle that way, having that little bookshelf on that end, because we had the table with the big shelf with the cats on it facing the other side. So Anyway, so that setup worked really, really well. Ended up with a bigger space than normal. I will tell you that I walked around just in the cafeteria and the main hallway is the only places I got to. And there were already more crocheters than there usually were at this show. And some of them were, the lady was selling embroidered stuff and she was embroidering on the spot, like monogramming things. And then she had a little corner where she had made crochet plushies and was selling them. And then, you know, another one was this lady that was selling shirts that she had made, and then she had a little corner with crochet. And so I don't know if these people, they probably didn't sign up as a crochet vendor. They probably signed up as a t-shirt vendor and an embroiderer, but then kind of snuck that stuff in as an extra, you know, and they may have called or they may not have called. I don't know, but it didn't really, I mean, it wasn't like horrible, but there was aisle across from us down 3 or 4, there was one, and then she had one right across the other way from her, and then the aisle back kind of in the middle, there was another one. So there was at least 4 little stations in the cafeteria alone. And then there, one of them, my YouTube watchers, Catherine, I believe, sorry if I say that wrong, but she realized during our Hobnob video that we had met last year at Castle, and she's in a hallway right off the main hallway, right on the corner though, where you can see her from the main hallway. And I had stopped and talked to her last year before I started YouTube, and then she was watching my videos not realizing it was me and that she had met me before. It was funny. And anyway, I went to go talk to her and see what she had and stuff, and she had a crocheter right next to her. That was their first year, which sometimes those first time vendors end up being temporary or last minute vendors that get a spot because something happens and somebody can't come that year, and so they let somebody in off of the wait list last minute, you know, or they could have just decided to let more people in this year because they had more spaces to fill, and maybe they didn't, you know, they didn't have as wide of a variety of other things to try to fill those spaces. But either way, I'm not really sure that affected our sales much. I feel like in general, a lot of people's markets and sales have been down just a little bit this year than previous years. I don't know if it's because of saturation of the market. I don't know if it's because of the economy. I don't know if it's, you know, whatever reason that it might be, attendance, people aren't getting out as much and going to these events. I don't know, or if it's just kind of a combination of all of those things. But we didn't do as good as last year at the show as far as money, but I don't think that it had anything, I don't think it had much anyway to do with other crocheters being there. There was probably 15, 20 little kids at least that came into our booth that had a clear bag that had a plushie in it already. And, you know, they were talking to their mom and they were like, you already got one, you know, and that's just the way it goes. I mean, I'm not mad about that. That's just, you know, and that had been the same if it was a crochet plushie or if it was some kind of 3D printed toy. You know, if you've already picked out something that day before you got there, then that is what it is. And so they weren't going to buy another thing, or their sister got something because they didn't buy something at that crochet booth. And so they're like, well, sisters, yeah, but you got something at the last one. So, and then sometimes they got to our booth and they went ahead and bought something even though they had already bought something at another crochet booth. So anyway, so all of that to say, let's go over some of my numbers. I'll talk about what did sell. I'm not going to go over, well, it's not going to take a super long time to kind of run through what did sell necessarily, but I'm not going to pop up pictures or anything like that probably on the screen just because I don't have individual pictures of everything and that takes forever. If you've been watching my videos and the inventory that I made, you'll know by what I'm calling them and stuff that they're in another video somewhere. I've already told you who made the pattern and all of that, but also if you're curious where the pattern came from, and I didn't say it when I was talking today, feel free to ask down in the comments and I'll try to get that for you, okay? So, okay, let's start off with, the day started with, I have my emotional support chicken nuggets. So at the last market we did in Springfield, Illinois, I had taken 11 and I had enough cartons to do 4, and I had sold all but 1 the very first night, which was the short night. And so I made all 4 of the chicken nuggets I could. And so I went into my Saturday with 5 and I sold out in the first few hours. So I didn't have any more for the rest of the day. And I had people that came back that were actually looking for them and I didn't have them. This show, it was 6 hours. Hobnob was 4 hours plus a 7-hour day. It was 11 total, and a much, much bigger venue and attendance. So I did not make as many. I had 15 at the last show and sold them all before noon. I made 9. So I took 9 chicken nuggets with me, and I took the yarn and enough little boxes to make 3 more to finish a skein that I had. So anyway, the day started with the sale of 2 emotional support chicken nuggets to 2 different people. A gecko that I had in the $12 bin, and my Longhorn Cow by Madeline Mako, which was my pattern test that I did last week. That was all, actually, and then I sold a mini chicken nugget, and they asked me if I could put it on a swing. The nicest boy from the band, I remember him from last year. He bought several things last year, but he had asked if I could put him on a swing, and I had some Posh yarns with me, so he picked out a color, and I put his chicken nugget on a swing, and he came back 5-10 minutes later, like right after the market started. I got done with it because it takes a while for all the people to funnel through and get to the cafeteria. And he picked it up and he was ecstatic. His mom even came by later and was like, "You made his day." And I do have a video of that. If I can remember, I'll put it up here as well so you can see what that looked like. So that was all before the day had even, like, customers had come through. That was band kids and vendors that were walking around, which was a good start. So I started the day off before even I sold 2 of my 9 chicken nuggets, and I'm like, crap. And once the doors did open, I sold, I think before the first 20 minutes of the show, I had sold 4 of the 9, and I had 5 left. And it had not yet at this point gotten so packed. The cafeteria gets really, really packed like 10:30 to noon, because it is also the cafeteria where people do come in and get food, some really good food through the cafeteria area. And so I started making chicken nuggets while I was standing there off and on helping people at the market. I tried to make, and I did, I made the last 3 for a total of 12, and throughout the day, all 12 emotional support chicken nuggets sold. And I wrote down it was 12:40. So it was 12:40 when the last one sold. So 3 hours and 40 minutes in, which it's a 6-hour show. So a little over halfway through the show, every single one of them was sold. So emotional support chicken nuggets in the little fry containers. I made 1 capybara and sold it. I sold 3 of the mini chicken nuggets. I sold all my swinging animals at the last show. And so I was able to make 10 more for the show. So I only had 10 going into the show, and I sold 7 of the 10. I was able to make 10 or 11, I think 11 keychains for this market. I had sold, 16, 18, I don't know how many at the last market. So I had a goal of 10. I made 10 or 11. I sold 13 keychains. So that was pretty good. $10 dino. I sold both the possums that I made for $12. I sold a baby chick. I only sold 1 scrunchy box. I sold the sleepy mallard that I made, that I was telling you about, that was the new pattern I did this week. I had finished 2 crossbody bags that had the granny squares on the front, the corduroy ones. I had finished 2 that I had started. I had sold all of the ones I had at the last show. and I decided I didn't want to focus on the crossbody bags because I didn't know if they would sell or not, and I needed to focus on the plushies that I figured would sell. So I had 2 that I already had the squares done for. I just needed to sew them on. So the very first week after Hobnob, I finished those 2. I sell them for $26, and I sold both of those actually to the same lady. That was a $52 purchase. I sold my Triceratops. That was the new pattern I did this last week. I sold both of my Pepper the Skunks, which is my pattern that were the black with the white. They were cinder, the Burnett Mystical cinder color, which is black with a little bit of dark gray mixed in. I sold both of those. I still have the teal green one. I've had it for a long time. He was one that I worked up when I was working on the pattern. I sold 3 of the little baby $8 baby turtles. I think I made 7 of them because I had none left, and I sold 3 of them. I sold 3 of my spiders. I think I have one. I sold one of my Lindy the Lambs finally. I was so excited about that. That's my own pattern. I had 2 from when I was working up the designs, and I had never sold them. People were like, oh, it's a little lamb, and they would pick them up and stuff, but like I hadn't sold them yet, and I was so excited. The little girl came along, and I think she was pregnant, and she's like, this is so sweet. So that's my pattern, Lindy the Lamb. I sold one of those for $22. I sold 2 of the little short chubby mallards that I make. I think I had 3 and I sold 2. The new chicken pattern that I talked about last week that I'm working on, which we'll talk about a little bit later, I had the jumbo, the smaller version of the jumbo pattern, but in Naughty Ball Posh yarn, and then I had a medium-sized one that had like the stripes on it. Both of the smaller ones I had priced at $15, and I sold the smallest of them, which was the one that's my final pattern, but it was a Naughty Ball. It was small. I sold it for $15. It's just funny, like how you can tell when somebody comes into the booth and they're like, they just pick something up and they just like hand it to you. Like, I need this. It's like they don't even really look around. It's just like that thing caught their eye and it was like meant for them, and they're leaving with it, you know, like they need it. It's just so funny when that happens, and that's what happened with this chicken. And I don't know the story behind why this lady bought it, but it was an older lady. I would say she was probably in her 70s, and she just like came through the booth, was casually looking around, speeding through, and then all of a sudden she saw that chicken and she just picked up that one and she's like, I need this. I'm like, okay. I just love when that happens. So that chicken went home with her, $15. I sold 3 of my $5 stingrays. I sold my succulent turtle. This guy sat on which if you saw the video, he sat on the corner crate of our tables, and he got so much love until he sold. I would say it was probably a little before noon, maybe, when he sold, and that this lady, probably my age, and her daughter, who was in high school, the mom was like, I need this turtle. Like, I don't know if she just loves plants or loves turtles or loves both. I don't know. I didn't ask a ton of questions. She's like, I need this. And the daughter was like, where are you going to put it? She's like, I don't know. I'm going to find a place for it. I need it. And she just like picked it up, and she's like, she looked at the tag, didn't bat an eye. It was $40. And then her daughter was like, well, I need this. And she picked up my Finley the Frog, which is Madeline Mako pattern that I made early last spring. It has been to like almost every market I've had this year, and he's priced at $45 because he turned out really big in Burnett, and he's got like long dangly legs. And so she's like, well, I need this one. She's like, okay, let's get them. And so it was like $85 between just those 2 things, and she checked out with those. So it was an awesome purchase. And I sold 2 of my rubber ducks. So at Springfield, I think I made 9, and I sold like 7 or 8 of them. I ended up with 1 left, and I made 3 more. So I had 4 at the show, and I sold 2 of the 4. I sold the little hammerhead shark. I think I showed you it was last week, the little blue one that I made. That was a new pattern. I sold the little chubby penguin that was like the chubby little mallards that was all from Jade's pattern. It was $10. I had 3 of the little chicks with the little bucket hats on. 1 blue, green, and 1 pink hat, and I finally sold 2 of those to 2 different people. I only had 1 little mini chicken that I freehand that I put in the $5 bin. I only had one. I wanted to make more, I just didn't get to it, but I sold it for $5. I sold my $20 stingray, which was the bigger one that was made out of blue mystical. I sold my big snuggle lamb that's laying down snuggle lamb pattern by Mom Stitchetti. It was $36. I had him at a couple shows and finally sold him. A mini mushroom, which I'd made, like, I had it last year and it was on a keychain. And it was made out of velvety yarn. I don't even know which type. I think maybe retro velvet. Before I've gotten rid of all my retro velvet now, but with the very beginning I bought a bunch of retro velvet and was making little things out of it. And not the best yarn to probably put on a keychain because it's just doesn't have as much structure. I like to do them out of Posh and Naughty Ball now, but anyway, so I took the keychain off of it a couple shows ago and just threw it in the $5 bin, and they finally sold. I sold my Gordon the Gator, which is my pattern. I had one left, and he was my original one that I made before I finalized the pattern. His tail was just a little bit crooked, and the way I put his tail on was different than the final pattern, and he did not have the spikes down his back. And this boy came by several times and was like, he had some other kind of crocodile or gator at home, and that was a plushie, and he was there at the very beginning of the day and saw it and was like, I think my other gator needs a friend. And he kept coming back, and then last time he came back again and he picked it up, and I think I had him priced at $22, which was kind of high. He was made in Parfait Chunky too, so he was smaller, and he was the tester, and his tail was a little off, and I had been carrying him around for a while, and this kid just really loved it and had already bought something that day. Actually earlier in the day, I can't remember what it was, but that same kid had already bought something earlier in the day for his girlfriend. But he picked it up, and he's like, I'm still trying to decide if I need this or not. And I said, I'll tell you what, I said, I'll sell it to you for $15 if you really want it. He's like, can't say no to that. He says, I'll take him. And so he bought the gator for $15. I sold the tall giraffe that I made a couple weeks ago that had the 4 legs and the real long neck to a girl that just is giraffe obsessed, who's probably in her early 20s. She absolutely had to have it. I sold my bat. I sold the $12 Nooks Hooks elephant that I made this week. I sold my last jellyfish. I made a ton of these jellyfish last spring. I think it was 6 or 7 that had all the tentacles and stuff because they had sold really well for me last year. And I priced them at $18, and I carried those things to every show. Like, some shows sold none, sold one. Finally, it was my last one. I think I have one still in the antique mall. But anyway, I finally sold my last jellyfish that I had in my market inventory anyway. I sold one of my fanny packs that had the rectangle, the grainy rectangle on the front of it that I had made that was the blue, the teal and hot pink color. And then I sold Parker the pig, which is my pattern as well. For whatever reason, it seems like when I go to if I make a Parker and take it to a show, I sell the Parker. And he was on my focus list because sometimes I'd rather make new things than to make something I've already made before. And I wasn't really feeling it, but I came home last week or the week before one night, and I just didn't really have anything I desired to make. And so I looked at my focus list and I'm like, I need to make a Parker, because it seems like when I make a Parker, I sell a Parker. So I made a Parker the pig in the coral color. I think it's back here. Yeah, this color right here. This one. Last week, and I sold Parker for $24. So that was everything. This is my list of everything. I had to start kind of going in columns because I didn't want to turn the page. I also sold $40 worth of my son's girlfriend's things. I didn't put out as much of her things this show because we had enough to really keep the booth pretty full since we didn't have as much space at this market. And me and Tara had worked really hard and gotten a ton of inventory, so I had just put a few of her things out, and so I sold like $40 worth of her stuff too. So my goal was this. The booth is $70, but it's a $70 booth fee, and my goal was to hit 1,000. Last year at this show I sold 1,300 and something, but I had more inventory because I'd only did like 3 shows last fall because I was just getting back into markets
and I was just able to get into like 3, and it takes so long to make stuff, and I was slower and things, and this was like the first big market me and Tara had done together. We had done some real smaller ones, but Castle was by far our best show until this last year when we did Hobnob. So my goal was 1,000, and really about halfway through I was like, I'm not gonna hit that. I'm probably gonna do 800, and I really was okay with that. It's close to our house. It's a 1-day thing. I was home, I was fed, home, and settled at my house by 5:30 still. So the band kids just help you load everything in and load everything out. You take 1, maybe 2 trips, and it's just like, it's so fast and easy to go in and out of this place. You're not hauling everything yourself, and it's not outside where you're dealing with the elements. And I would have been ecstatic with 800. My goal was 1,000 though, and so we went to Chick-fil-A afterwards, and we both added up all our totals, and mine was 1,077. So I did do $1,000 at this show. So super excited about that. That's a pretty good show, especially if you add what I sold of my son's girlfriend stuff, and then you add what Tara sold, all within one booth at this place. We are very, very blessed and grateful to be able to do these shows and to be successful in them. So if I can then have a weekend where I make $1,000 and recoup some of my yarn cost, then it is a good day. So let's move on. Thank you for listening to all of that. If you are just here for the market recap, then that part is done. I'm getting ready to move into the new pattern I'm working on, which I hope to get the tester call out for in the next few days. And then I'm going to talk about a little bit of my plans for 2025, which I'm super excited for. So if you joined me last week, I'm going to move forward just a little bit so I can reach my patterns over here. But if you guys joined me last week, you saw this guy. He did not sell at the market. The smaller version of this exact same pattern did sell. But the jumbo one, he got picked up a ton, and people were laughed at him, thought it was hilarious. I think he's made in jumbo sweet snuggles or parfait XL chicken. This is pretty much the final chicken pattern that I'm going to be working on with my testers. The one thing I am going to change is I am going to make this beak just a little bit shorter. Yeah. So that is the one thing I am going to change, is making this just a little bit shorter. I got done with the chicken, and I'm like, this body style is kind of neat. What else can I put into this pattern so it's not just a chicken? So I'm going to show you. I worked on that base, gave me the stuff to work on this baby penguin. So if you know, I think it's an emperor penguin. When they're little babies, they have, a lot of times their bodies are mostly gray and fluffy, and then they have a little bit of black on the top and the white areas here. Sometimes they have the black here too, but I think that detail will be fine. And usually their tail and their little feet are darker. So he has the little tail and the little black feet, the black beak, and then obviously the wings, the color changes. This is the baby penguin version. Again, this is not the shorter. I'm going to make this a little bit shorter, so it's more like this. And then I worked up Mr. Pigeon. So this is Pigeon. Same feet. They'll all have the same beaks. This one, actually, I don't think this one is the shorter one, but I did pull his beak in a little bit more, so it'll still be a little bit shorter than this in the final pattern. Anyway, so this is the pigeon. Same feet, same wings, except for I did a color change on them. They'll all have the same beaks. They'll just have different. Obviously, the chicken will have surface crocheting on the top. He'll also have a wattle here. The penguin will have a
no waddle, no surface crocheting, but we'll have a tail. And then the pigeon will just have the beak, wings, and feet, but we'll have some color changes that you'll have to incorporate here if you want to make it kind of more of the rock pigeon variety. Not all pigeons have these colorings on them, so you could just leave him gray and brown and he would probably look more like the female version of pigeon, because I think it is the males that have the more expressed coloring on them. But anyway, super cute. So pigeon, the baby penguin, and then I only have a jumbo version right now of this chicken, but they're all the same pattern. It's just this is jumbo yarn. So I'm going to work on that pattern this week. And I think he's just going to be a bundle where you get all 3 varieties in the same pack so that you could do any of the 3 that you wanted to, unless you guys think it would be better to have them separated for a slightly smaller price. If you just wanted the chicken, you could grab it or not, but I think I'm going to bundle them together. So if you are interested in testing any of those versions of that pattern, the tester call, I always do them on my Instagram, so you'll have to watch out there for the tester call. I'll probably just pick 2 to 3 per variety of bird or chicken, whatever you want to call it. I'll probably pick 2 to 3 per thing, so there'll be 9 to 10 testers probably total, and I'll probably pick a variety of the yarns that they're wanting to use so that we have some different sizes, different skill levels, and stuff like that. It's kind of how I do that. So that'll be interesting. It's always neat to see a pattern that you've worked on. It's a little bit nerve-wracking, but also neat to have somebody taking your pattern and going through it with a fine-tooth comb and finding all of your errors. And then it is also neat to see other people's take on it and the way they bring it to life in different yarns or different colors, and that's neat too. So I'm excited to see that. So 2020, well, the rest of December and 2025, I do have some plans to really focus on pattern designing more patterns. I have a lot more patterns in my Sitting Animals pattern that I would really like to work up. And then I have tons of ideas. When I get ideas, especially in the middle of market seasons, I just write them all down and I have this huge list of animals and different styles that I didn't find that I was maybe looking for. So I'm like, I can develop that, or just a variety I've never seen before. So I have that written on a piece of paper. I'm going to work on that. But something else I think I want to venture into is some safety eye making. I hope in the next, maybe before the new year, it might be a new year drop. We'll see how obsessed I get with safety eye making. But I do have some plans to do some like little mystery boxes. They'll be kind of a limited edition. You'll get so many in the box of so many of each size. And it'll just be like I make so many boxes and that's how many I have, kind of a drop thing. There will be a sinker eye version, I think, that will have 20, a 25, and a 30 in it. And then I think I'm going to do a non-sinker eye. So I use some sinkers and I use some flat back offset pupil eyes that I really like too, that don't have to sink into the yarn as much, and they just have a flat plastic washer back. They're really sturdy, hard plastic backs, but they are more flat. You don't have to have as much pressure and as sturdy of a tool to get them on. And I will have, I think, a 20, so the sinker ones are 20, 25, and 30, and the non-sinker ones are 20, 23, 28, I think is the sizing that those come in. So pretty similar in size, just a little bit smaller on the non-sinker versions. So, and I might have an option where you can say, I'll take both. Either, I don't have a preference. So you might be looking out for some stories on Instagram where I ask some questions about sinker, non-sinker, mixed, smaller to larger, you know, like what are your favorite colors, just trying to get some ideas from you guys. Or if you want to comment below on this video, you can. So I'm excited about that and pattern designing. And then obviously we're still signing up for a few markets in the next year, working on things like that. I also have some plans for some bonus videos for December. I don't know how many yet. I love to think that I have all of this time in the world that just doesn't end up coming to fruition. But so I'd had this big idea, and we'll see if I can make it work and end up doing it. There's only like 17 days until Christmas or something. So it might be more of a New Year's countdown, though, and might be some videos posted between Christmas and New Year's instead of trying to get them all in before Christmas. It's not really a Vlogmas, but I really have enjoyed everyone's Vlogmas that they're doing and Christmas countdowns that they're doing in December. It's just creating extra content. And I've been extra cozy, having lots and lots and lots of things to watch from other creators as well. So that's been super, super nice. I think that's all I have, guys. Sorry, it's an extra long video this week. Lots to talk about. Hopefully you enjoyed the longer form content. I know last week's video was long too. I looked back on my 54 minutes. And this one might even be longer. I think it is. But anyway, I enjoy you guys. I think it's almost time where I could almost do more videos per week and still have a pretty long video each time, just because I love to talk to you guys so much. But thank you for being here and visiting my market recap. Great market, working on new patterns. I have some safety things in the works that are super exciting, and I love and appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here and holding me accountable and just letting me have some friends to talk to about this thing that I love so much. So I appreciate that. Take care. If you have questions about anything from my market, my patterns, anything like that, drop them in the comments below. I love to talk to you guys in the comments. And I've had people reach out on Instagram and DM me when it's something that, you know, private or whatever. Feel free to do that as well. Follow me over on Instagram. But if you are looking forward to any of the stuff that I just talked about and you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, make sure to do that. That way you get a notification when I do post something new, so that you don't miss anything in the community tab, like a tester call or a bonus video or something that I put out. And we will talk to you later, guys. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Have a great week. And as always, happy crocheting, guys. We'll see you later. Bye.